Howdy, howdy all, Les from Future FX. This video has the title probably suggested to you is the settings video, just to go, I'll go through all the settings to do with Trend Trader Plus, but this is particularly to deal with the current latest version, which is Trend Trader Plus version 1.10, and that's the first version to incorporate the time parameter setting. So, and it also has a trailing stop loss for the first time. So we need to go through the settings again. They'll be the main ones I cover, but I'll go through everything else for new people as well, so they only have to watch one video. But let's get into it. Okay, here we are, guys. This is just my personal version, which just says developer. So I don't need to input a license. Also, your version will not have the input weekly goal on it. That's for a future upgrade. So forget those first two lines. But from here on in, I'm going to go through the two new features first. So people that have previously been using older versions already understand the other settings. They can just watch the first part of this video and they'll be good. And then after that, I'll go through all the settings one by one, so that new people can get everything they need to know just from the one video. Okay, so first off, I'll just go with the trailing stop loss. I've added a trailing stop loss. We still have both profit locks, but now we have a trailing stop loss as well. Now I don't, the optimized settings quite often won't have a trailing stop loss involved. So just leave it on the default, which is 330,000. That's just simply so that it's not going to ever activate. So on the default settings, it won't be getting used. It won't activate. The trade will take profit well before that would kick in. So that's why that number's so high by default. The main reason I've added the trailing stop loss is because some people prefer a trailing stop loss to the profit locks. So I've added it. You can use it if you wish or not if you wish. Some of the optimized settings will include a trailing stop loss setting, which will improve the performance a little bit. A lot of the pairs, I find the first and second profit locks do the job well enough, but sometimes the trailing stop loss can give you a little bit more as well. Feel free to play with using the trailing stop loss and not that profit locks, or the first profit lock and a trailing stop and not the second stop lock, profit lock, all things like that. You can try that if you wish. But now let's concentrate on the time parameters. We've got start hour for trading and start minute for trading, end hour and end minute. So what that's going to do, let's take these settings, for example. It's going to start trading at 1800 hours and 0 minutes. And it's going to stop trading at 1000 hours and 0 minutes. First of all, these time settings are market watch time. Let me put the market watch back. Hang on, just let me put the market watch back up. Okay, so the time settings here are market watch time. So we can see at the moment that 1800 to 10 just a moment. Okay, so if it's starting at 1800 hours, it's going to trade right through 19, 2000, right through until 1000 the next morning. So this falls within that time range. So the chart says correct time. If it's not within those time parameters, if the time is not within those time parameters, it will just say not correct time, so that you know if it's working or not. There you go, just took out a trade. Nice. All right, so I think that makes sense, that the theory behind that, which has definitely panned out, with all the back testing I've done, is that certain time periods are optimal for certain pairs. Not for all pairs, but just for an example, London and New York, particularly with, you know, euro, pound, US dollar type currency pairs, is the optimal time, simply because there is a lot more money being traded and a lot more of those particular currencies being traded when their local markets are open. And so I've optimized these settings just like all the other settings with a lot of back testing to find out exactly what works best. And so what it actually does in practice is it allows you to keep, you know, you might have, let's say you have 50 trades over a back testing period, or let's say you have 30 trades that would normally get taken out in a month. 20 of them might be winning trades, 10 of them losing trades. So let's make a different example. Let's say we have 15 winning trades and 15 losing trades for a month. By setting the time parameters to exclude the times when the majority of losing trades occur, we can end up having, you know, 20 or more winning trades and 10 or less losing trades. So we get to keep all the winning trades and reduce the number, you know, get rid of, don't trade during most of the losing trade times. So that's the idea behind it. And on the majority of pairs, that is definitely achievable. Now, I just want to bring up a picture. Give me a moment. Okay, so I've just brought up a picture, the Word document with all the optimized settings in it. Now, these settings are in our paid community. So just it's the first pinned post is a Word document with all the optimized settings in it. From now on in, being a member of the paid community is compulsory to get this latest version. But having said that, I'm not going to force people to continue to subscribe to the paid community at $50 per month, but they will have to join for the first month. That is so they can access the community, all of the extra training, so they can fully understand how it works. Now, and that's simply because Trend Trader now is a little more complicated because it has a lot more parameters to make it even better. And I want everybody, I just don't want people using it without knowing how to use it. Okay, and so I am making at least 1 month of paid community compulsory. And this is where you'll find all of the optimized settings. If, just on a side note, if you decide you don't wish to be involved in the paid community any longer, that's fine by me. Make sure you get a copy of this Word document before you cancel your membership. Otherwise, you won't have access to all these settings. Okay, but I just wanted to show you the time parameters, how they're written in the, say, this is gold, this is gold. So I've just written it here. Time settings are from 1800 to 1000 hours. And so this is how you'd transcribe this across to here. You'd type in 18 for 18 and leave and put minutes as 0 for the 00 there. And 1000 hours is 10 and 0. So that's how you'd put it across. Now, some of the other ones are like 0800 hours to 2000 hours. 2000 hours is the same. You just put in 20 and 0. But for 0800 hours, you just put in 8 and 0. All right, so you can't enter a 0 before the number. So for 0800, that would be just 8 and 0. Hope that makes sense. So just sort of show how that's written in the optimized settings list and how you would actually copy that across to the actual settings. All right, so that should cover all of the optimized settings, guys. That should make sense to you. So now I'm just going to go through the rest of the settings. If you've used a previous version, watch the previous version settings video. There will be no new content from this point on. Actually, there was one thing I wanted to speak of first, okay, and that was also to do with the optimized settings and the back test. Okay, so our optimized settings list let's talk about gold. Okay, this is in just a 3.25 months back testing. It takes out 54 trades and only has 2 losses. The maximal drawdown is 2.12%. Okay, and I'm basing all of this on a 1% risk per trade. To get 2.12% drawdown, there's a couple of variables, but that could very well mean there have been 2 losing trades in a row and then another one in a little bit of drawdown before it became profit. Okay, so based off this back testing, just looking at the maximal drawdown, you know you could at some stage have a run where you lose at least 2 trades in a row. Okay, and if you're on 1% risk, that means that at some stage you'll have a run where you lose that much. Okay, so the profit overall is okay, good, but at some stage during that time, you will have a run where things go bad and you lose that much at once. Okay, now this is just how I personally like to set my risk. Although all of the optimized settings are based off a 1% risk, I'm not recommending you use a 1% risk because that's going to be different for everybody, depending on their risk appetite, depending on whether they're trading their own live funds or trading a prop account, all of those sort of things. Now, for me personally, if the maximal drawdown is, 2 or 3%, I would be happy to trade 1% risk per trade if it was my own money. On my prop accounts, I would only trade 0.5% risk per trade. Okay, let's have a look at another one. This one is US yen. It has huge profit. It's always one of the best pairs for trend trader, but the drawdown is a little higher. So I would reduce my risk a little bit. If I was using 0.5% risk here, I'd probably drop this one down to 0.4% risk. Okay. Let's check out a couple of the other ones up the top here. We've got pound US and AUD CHF. 6% drawdown and 5.5% maximal drawdown. Huge profit, but it makes 19.5% profit in those 3 months. But there is a bad run in the middle of it all, where you will lose 5.5% in a row. Right, and this is based off 1% risk. So that's basically, not necessarily, but basically meaning you've got 5 or 6 trades in a row that you lose in a row. Okay, so at some stage, it could be like 3 losing trades in a row and then just 1 small profit lock and then a couple more losing trades. But what it's meaning is that somewhere in that 3.25 months, when you made 19.5%, there was a section of it where you lost 5.5% almost in a row. Okay, so you need to understand that. Don't just get excited by the 19.5%. Understand that at some stage during that backtesting period, there was a bad run where you lost 5.5% or 6% almost in a row. Okay, and knowing that should help you choose how much risk you want on this particular pair. And so for me personally, on my prop accounts, on these 2 pairs, I'm just using 0.25% risk per trade because I know the run will be bad. So, and how that would play out here is if with a 1% risk, somewhere along that backtesting period, I would have had a 6% run, a 6% loss, a run where I lost 6% in a row. On a 0.25% risk, that losing streak would only be 1.5%. Okay, 1.5% losing streak is something that I'm happy with. Back down here on gold, I'm doing 1%, I'm doing 0.5% risk on my prop account, meaning my bad run would only be just over 1%. US yen, I said I was going to go 0.4%. So a bit less than half of that. So just over 2% losing streak. So that's how I calculate what risk I want per pair based off what that maximal drawdown could be. All right, I hope that makes sense. Oh, look, I just had some notifications on my phone. My 2 gold trades have both got profit lock kicked in now. That's awesome. But anyway, getting back onto the rest of the settings. So, as I said, if you already understand the other settings, we've already gone through the 2 new ones. Maybe I didn't go through the trailing stop loss. It's just like any other trailing stop loss in trading. It will, once the trade is into that many points of profit, the stop loss will just trail along behind at that distance. Anyway, that's it for new settings, guys. If you know all the other settings, you feel free to not watch the rest of the video because it will just be, exactly the same as the previous video settings. And now I'll go through all the other settings for any new people. Okay, guys. What I might mention though is this video will be one of the videos in the playlist of setup videos that you receive when you purchase the software. So when you purchase the software and sent me details so that I could give you your activation key, I will have sent you the software file, the activation key, and I just said that wrong. Actually, when you purchase the software, I'll just go through this now. When you purchase the software, you'll get 3 emails, automated emails. One's just a confirmation, one is a receipt, and the other one is a playlist of videos and also requesting some details so that I can create your activation key and everything. And that third video will have a playlist, a YouTube playlist of videos to help you set up everything from VPS, downloading, setting up the VPS, downloading the software, installing the software, and this video as well, going through all the settings for you. So let's go through them. Entry type. There are 4 different entry types to choose from: 0, 1, 2, and 3. That determines, so there's quite a few criteria that the software needs to have occur at once before it'll enter the market. That's why it's such a low volume trader. First and foremost, you need all 3 of these time frame trends to line up. If they're not lined up, then the writing will be red. When all 3 are either sell or all 3 are buy, the writing goes green, just so you know that that particular pair is possibly getting close to taking out a trade. And I've done that because I often trade 10 or more pairs, and it's just easy at a glance to see which ones might be getting close to taking out a trade. So all the 3 time frame trends need to line up, and then without getting too technical, it looks for a bit of a pullback and then confirmation of the trend continuing, and then it will take out a trade. The entry type here deals with how the software determines if that trend is continuing or not. And for different pairs, I've found slightly different criteria on that works best. And so in the optimized settings, that Word document that we were just looking at before, there will be an entry telling you what entry type to use for that pair. Take profit and stop loss is pretty self-explanatory, I think. Once it takes out a trade, it automatically places a take profit and stop loss. These take profit and stop loss figures, as in all of the figures here, are in points, meaning there are 10 points to a pip. So this is 300 pips and 190 pips. Okay, so hasn't necessarily always been true, but since the new time parameters came in, the risk to reward ratio is much better, meaning we potentially risk 190 pips to make 300 pips. So we're risking less than we are potentially making. The lot size and the risk percentage. Just give me a second. What you need to do is come down to your risk percentage and enter how much you want to risk per trade. And as I said, I like to risk 0.5% on gold on my prop accounts. And this is one of my prop accounts. So you put 0.05 in here. Then you can close down the settings and just give it a moment to update. And it will tell you here that the lot size for a 0.5% risk is that 0.02. That this is the gold one here, so it's actually 0.015 is the lot size that I would need to use for 0.5% risk. Of course, a lot size only goes to 2 decimal places. I've left this as 3 so that you know for exactly 0.5% risk, you need 0.015. You can't have 0.015, you have to go 0.01, say rounding down, or rounding up to 0.02. That would be up to you, but you understand that you're either going to be having a bit less risk or a bit more risk than you were hoping for. And then you come back here and you enter that lot size in here. And then you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are risking exactly what you want to risk per trade on any particular pair. First profit lock activate and first profit lock. These two settings work in conjunction with each other. So once the trade gets into 200 points of profit, the stop loss is going to move to 100 points of profit. So for example, this trade, if it got down here into 200 points of profit, the stop loss is going to move down to here, meaning that it's a completely no risk trade. You can't take a loss on it anymore. And you've locked in that 100 points of profit. So even if the market turns and goes against you and you hit that stop loss, you're still taking 100 points of profit. Okay, second profit lock activate and second profit lock, exactly the same thing as the other one, except once you're in more profit, you lock in more profit. Nice and simple. The magic number, you don't need to worry about that. That's just how the software identifies trades it's taken out itself, as opposed to, you know, any other form of trade. You can change that number if you want. It won't make any difference at all to how the software operates. Maximum spread allowed. Okay, the default setting is 30, like you can see there. And on almost all of the Forex pairs, the default setting can just stay at as a default setting. That will be good enough. On some of the more exotics, and even on pound New Zealand dollar, for example, on some brokers, the spread will be larger than 30 quite often, meaning you would need to increase this setting a little bit. So this setting needs to be a little bit higher than the spread is just generally. And what I mean by just generally is not when the market first opens, not when there's a red folder event on, but sort of most of the rest of the time. If the spread was 20, you could set this at 30. Over here in the market watch, if you only have the bid and the ask and not this column, which is the spread column, you just need to right click, bring up the menu and check the spread option. And then you'll have this column as well. So you can see on all the Forex pairs, the spread's low. Pound yen's the highest with 20. So 30 would suffice. What it does is if the spread gets higher than this setting, it won't be able to take out a trade. So it's just to stop the software from taking out trades when the market's particularly volatile, when the spread's really high. Because if the spread is really high, that will, you know, literally suck all the potential profit out of the trade. The market's going to have to move a lot further to make any profit at all. So you don't want trades to be taken out then. Typical times when you get a lot of extra spread is the first hour of the market open every day, and also initially when there's some red folder events occurring. As you can see, like gold's a bit higher, but just good enough. Bitcoin's a lot higher. Indices, they're always a lot higher as well. So you need to adjust your spread setting to suit, particularly on crypto and indices. We have two trade settings to minimize how many trades the software can open on any one particular pair and how many trades it can open in total. Now, in the back testing, I've used 5 as the max trades per pair. Sometimes, though, it has opened up, like most of the time, it doesn't open up any more than 3, but sometimes it does. So just keep that in mind with the back testing results. And so this is just how I like to have mine set up. Max trades per pair would be 3, meaning I could have 2 trades with 3 each on it, giving me a total of 6. And then it couldn't open up any more trades until one of those closed. And then when an opportunity arose, it could open up a 6th trade. So for me, using 0.5% risk per trade, the maximum trades I could possibly have open at any one time would be 6, meaning I could potentially have a loss of 3%. Okay, I've never ever seen 6 trades open and all of them go bad. That's never happened, not even close. But potentially you could. So you need to keep that in mind when coming up with your risk strategy. Now we have one more main setting. That's the partial close feature. Okay, and so we've got a partial close and partial close amount. These two work in conjunction with each other as well. So when the trade gets into 300 points of profit, it's going to close out this much, which is 0. But meaning that I'm not using the partial close feature on this one, and that's simply because I'm already using the minimum lot size. But if I was using a larger lot size, let's say I'm using a 1.0 lot size, I could close out 0.1 of that trade when the trade gets into 300 points of profit. And then when it gets into 800 points of profit, I could close out a little bit more of it. Now, I haven't included partial close settings in the optimized settings. I'm just going to leave that totally up to you guys. What I will mention is that you don't want to close out too much of your trade early on, because you really, preferably you want the whole trade to go all the way through to take profit and make the very biggest, most profit possible. That's mostly how you want it to happen, but that doesn't always happen, of course. So it is also good to close out and realise some profit along the way. So you can change these settings to however you like them, but I generally like to have my first partial close occur either on or just after the first profit lock. I never do it before it. And my partial close too, I either do it on the second profit lock or just before or just after, somewhere around about there. On the common tab here, you just have to have allow live trading checked. The other boxes don't really matter. And then you will see that the face is smiling. As long as this little face here is smiling, as opposed to, you can see how he's got a sad face now. If there's a sad face, it's either because you don't have the auto trading button here turned on. Turn it on, make it green. Now he's smiling. The other option is if you don't have the allow live trading box checked, that will also make him sad. So they're the two things that could cause that smiley face not to smile. So check those if he isn't. And once that's done, he will smile. As long as it's smiling, the software is working. The only other things that could stop the software from taking out a trade would be if you had the lot size set at 0, for example. if you had the max spread setting too low and the actual spread was often higher than that, then it wouldn't be able to take out a trade. But that is all that could stop it from taking out trades. As long as you've checked those things, then, you know, it's definitely okay and will work. I mentioned that because it is a low volume trader, and, you know, you can go several days without the software taking out a trade. It's not common, it doesn't happen often, but that is definitely possible and has happened before. And so new people using it may wonder if they have it set up properly, if it's working or not, because they haven't seen any trades yet. So those are the things to check to make sure. And if that's good, then it's all good. Obviously, feel free to ask questions, me personally, ask in the community chat, all of that. Definitely don't be afraid to query anything that's going on. The main thing is, and that's why I'm making the community compulsory, is so everybody gets a chance to get full understanding, access to all the information, training, settings, the community, so that they can understand what they're doing with the software. All righty, that's it, guys. I don't think there's anything else you need to know. I'll leave it to you and have a awesome day, week, month, year, wherever you may be.